Welcome back to the channel, everybody. We're going through the Deathless Disciple Carina's challenge. That's taking all 7 of the Deathless champions through the Necropolis. So we're going to be taking the easy path on this run. I do have videos coming out that are going to be on a couple other paths. But starting off with Titania is She-Hulk. She's by far the best option for this fight. You can use Deathless Thanos if you'd like, but all of what Deathless She-Hulk does is meant to counter this fight perfectly. So the idea is to keep your trauma debuffs refreshed by having Titania throw her specials instead of her activating her Haymaker. That's kind of the idea. If you can do that really well, keep her up against the wall and have her throw specials, she might not ever activate a Haymaker if things go well. And what's really nice about Deathless She-Hulk is if that does come about, every time you punish one of Titania's special attacks, you gain a grit buff. That's through your synergies as being part of the Deathless team. And with heavy attacks, Deathless She-Hulk also inflicts fear, which shuts off the unblockable. And so what's really nice is you get rid of kind of 2 out of the 3 dangerous passives with the Haymaker, and you can kind of just run things like that. The special 3 attack will give you the permanent debilitate debuffs, and that's going to let you, I guess, lengthen the duration of all your other debuffs, especially your traumas. So just like that, there's the grit buff, and there she is throwing more special attacks. And you just keep this loop going the entirety of the fight, and as those traumas stack up, you're going to be doing insane amounts of damage on your special attacks with those physical bursts of damage. And so that's pretty much the entire Titania fight, just like that in a nutshell. And we'll go ahead and finish this one out and move on to the next fight. Now for the Deathless Vision fight, I thought about this one for a little bit, thinking that Deathless Thanos would be the best option as he's immune to Cold Snap, and so you could kind of not have to worry about that. But it turns out actually that Deathless Guillotine is the best for this fight. It starts off a little choppy, given the fact that, you know, you're going to get the armor break and the Cold Snap on you for a little bit while you kind of deal with the initial start of the fight. But once you get to your first special one, it's pretty much over from there. Because what you'll notice is with the Deathless synergies, Deathless Guillotine gets the Neutralize passive on the first hit of the special one. And she also nullifies buffs on the final hit, though that's not going to be that big of a deal. It's really the Neutralize that you're going for here. Because what you'll notice is the Neutralize is up, and he doesn't get any power gains. And as part of Vision's kit is he can only apply the armor break and the Cold Snap, like the Cold Air ability, while he has power gain. So the whole idea of the fight here is just to get to your special one and spam special ones the entire time. Let your, I guess, your degens do most of the damage, trying to keep those up as much as possible. So if you can avoid it, try not to parry as much, because on this path you'll get the Tranquilize passive, which will slow down how many degens you can put on him. So you really do want to max out the degens here. And I get it, you know, if you've got to do it, you can. Like, I do it a few times. It was pretty laggy and choppy here, so I parried way more than I wanted to. But nonetheless, that's the entire fight. Special one spam, keep the neutralizes up. They do last quite a long time, so generally the power gain cooldown he's got lasts a shorter duration. So you're totally safe for the most part, as long as you can get back to the special one in time. You're not going to have any issues with this fight. It is just kind of a slog. I'm using 7-star rank 2s. If you do have it, the Ghost Rider Relic is the best here, because it just amplifies the damage of the degens, and it can get you through a little bit quicker. But that's pretty much the Vision fight, and we'll move on to the next one. Now moving on to Omega Sentinel, this was a little frustrating because I did start this challenge right when it released, essentially, and so Deathless King Groot's Undermine buff doesn't work. I'm not sure if they fixed that yet at this point. I hope that they have, but she would auto-block your special attacks like normal, which is not exactly what you want. So really, it was kind of a slog getting through, but it was Deathless Thanos and Deathless King Groot that will get you through this one. And you can use Deathless Thanos here to basically, as long as you can keep up the armor shatter once you reach 30 necrotic energy, you can essentially keep her from getting armor up buffs. So obviously Deathless Thanos was brand new, had really no idea what I was doing here. kind of figuring out as I went. You should use the counter punch charges as often as you possibly can, because that's how you're going to get the necrotic energy a lot faster, and I'm not doing that here, which is why it's a little bit slower. See, and I'm not even getting the armor shatter up, but that's what you would do, is use the counter punch charges to build necrotic energy, and then get yourself to 30, use a heavy attack, and then use your counter punch charges to keep that armor shatter up, and she'll never gain armor ups. So Deathless Thanos probably is the better choice for this, because Deathless King Groot only gets the undermine on his special attacks, and they don't even work. So Deathless Thanos all the way for this fight. Use the counterpunch charges, get yourself to 30 necrotic energy, use a heavy attack, and then the counterpunch charges to pause the armor shatter, and she won't get armor up buffs, and then that way she won't auto block you. And that's going to be it for the Omega Sentinel fight. Moving on to the next one. Now for the Airwalker fight, I used Deathless She-Hulk. You could also use Deathless Thanos here. As Deathless Thanos, you can, in the middle of your combo, throw a heavy attack, which gives you the automatic passive stun, which is a very easy access to knockdown, which is a pretty big deal in the Airwalker fight. As I'm sure you guys know, you've done the Necropolis at least once before if you're even attempting this challenge. So what you want to prioritize, obviously, is knocking him down before the Galactus timer goes. Otherwise, he's just going to get a ton of healing, and it's going to be a big problem. And with the Airwalker fight especially, you don't want to lose. You want to solo this if you can, and it is very easily soloable. So you just kind of do the exact same thing you did in the Titania fight, is you use Deathless She-Hulk to stack up your trauma debuffs and let him throw those specials at you as often as possible, while trying to maintain getting the knockdowns in between. And remember, just to note, when he throws the special one, you can dex the first portion, but block the second portion as best you can. If you dex it, you're going to get the Dark Tide debuff, and then those armor breaks will become damaging debuffs as opposed to non-damaging debuffs. And so that's going to be the problem for you. Just make sure to block the special ones, just like that, and then you can kind of continue this fight in a cycle like we've talked about. For the knockdowns, I usually try to focus on when he reaches about halfway on the timer, finding an opening for a knockdown. You don't want to lose track of it, realize you've only got a quarter of the time left, and then try to find a knockdown, because it might be too late. He might go passive on you, and you're going to run into an issue there, because it is on the knockdown, right? Like if you use a heavy attack, it's on the second hit right there. If you're using a special attack for whatever reason, it's kind of at the end, like once he gets up, see, like that. So just remember those timings, because even if he's on the ground after a knockdown, he can still get the Galactus buff, which is pretty darn lame in my opinion, but just play it safe and you'll be just fine. Now for the Captain Britain fight, you really can use anyone in this fight. Deathless Thanos, Deathless She-Hulk, any of the Deathless will be fine as long as you're comfortable with the reverse controls. I wanted to use Deathless Vision here just because, you know, wanted to get use out of all the Deathless. I understand he's probably the weakest in terms of the damage he's going to output, but he has complete control over this fight, right? So with the Deathless synergies, he's immune to the reverse controls. So you don't have to worry about that whatsoever. And with the other synergies, basically the Furies that you gain last a little bit longer. You burn more power every time she uses a special attack. She's going to burn power, and see how she uses a special and all of her power goes. And that's what's going to give you the phase charges a whole lot more often. Make sure to use those. That's how you're going to build up those Furies. The stack limit is also increased, so you can get up to, I think, 18 Furies. And then you can pretty much hold them for the entirety of the fight. So as long as you keep pretty darn aggressively, and you're fine with dexing all of her special attacks, especially as you get rooted, you will reach the rooted phase. Again, his damage isn't crazy significant, so you're going to reach the phase. Like all the other solos you get, you can do before you reach the rooted phase. With this one, you're going to kind of have to. So at that point, you can either use the phase charges to dex the special 2 while rooted, as long as you can just parry the first hit, right? You'll just phase through the entirety of the special attack, or just stick to the special ones, and you can dex those just fine in place. Really no problem there. In fact, I think it makes it easier to punish in that sense. So that's pretty much how you're going to do this with Deathless Vision. Keep up the Furies as much as you can, burn her power at any chance you get, and keep aggressive, and you should be able to get this down in a solo. It might be a little close, but it's a fun fight nonetheless. Lots of really easy control, just somewhat slow. Otherwise, tons of fun. Moving on to the next one. For the Wiccan fight, it's definitely a Deathless She-Hulk fight, and the reason for that being is she only does physical damage. So I don't know if you guys did see my mutant, the Masterful Mutants run. I used Colossus the entire time, and he's capable of doing this Wiccan fight for the exact same reason, and that's he only does physical damage, just like Deathless She-Hulk here. And so even when Wiccan uses the special ones, he's not going to regen very much. And more specifically for Deathless She-Hulk, on the special ones, Deathless She-Hulk can apply Spectre debuffs. She's honestly the most insane champion out of the Deathless besides Thanos. She has a ton of damage and a lot of good utility, especially for a lot of these Necropolis fights. She does kind of do most of the work. So keep that in mind. If you're not comfortable dexing the special 2s, which is totally fine, let him stick to the special ones, and then you stick to your special ones. Again, while trying to keep up all of your trauma debuffs as best you can. I just had him drop off right there. Super disappointing. And so that kind of thing is what's really going to slow you down. And then on top of that, what you want to do is keep him out of the incinerate phase so that you're not stacking up those incinerates on you. See, this is killing me. He drops him off again. He's being pretty passive. But that's pretty much the strategy of the fight. Just like normal, keep the trauma debuffs on him. I'd let him use special ones as long as you're using your special ones, and you'll be able to Spectre all of his healing. It's nothing incredible, but at least he's not regenning anything, which is a definite plus for this fight. And you can keep that up, and this is definitely soloable. I'm just not doing a good job here, but that's pretty much how that fight works. Now, moving on to the Psycho Man fight, you can use virtually anyone here. Deathless Thanos, I have it ranked 3, plus he's cosmic, so I decided to go for him. But it really is a prompt-based fight, and nothing more. None of the Deathless are mutant, so the concussion debuffs aren't as potent, regardless of who you use. And as long as you play the prompts to the best of your ability, you're going to be just fine through this fight. It is a little annoying that there's so much, just prompt play, and you're not actually doing a lot of the fighting. It can be really, really frustrating in that sense. But again, to get a lot of your abilities, you get heavy attacks really easily, because you can just, stun him in the middle of your combo for the heavies, like America Chavez, or Gladiator does the same, so just like that. And then you can cancel right to a special attack if you'd like, to basically get 2 of the prompts out of the way. The only one that will be kind of annoying is hitting his block, or I think he's got to hit your block, which is fine though, because you're going to have counterpunch charges to deal with that. So Deathless Thanos is probably your best bet here. But play the prompts as best you can to avoid that damage, and then do the Deathless Thanos cycle like normal. What you can do is 2 special 1s to get all your Furies up. Then you can use special 2s or special 3s, do a few of those if you'd like, just to stack up the corrosion damage, and then you can really start burning this fight down. And that's pretty much it for Psycho Man. We're going to be moving on to the other half of the Necropolis. Stick with me, and everything should be fine. Now on the right side, you're actually going to go through this center path, and realistically it was more of, do you want to deal with the Hercules fight, or do you want to deal with the Valkyrie fight? It was kind of the decision. I think either is fine. I just more recently did the middle path, so I felt more comfortable with it. And so with the Apocalypse here, again, same exact strategy with She-Hulk, is stacking up your traumas, letting him throw special attacks at you. I'm not even really playing the medium, heavy, light attacks type deal, and it really does move along kind of just fine. After a while, those special 1s will start to hurt. If you can push them to special 2s, or if you're perfectly comfortable dexing the special 1, go for that. If you're not, then push for special 2s as best you can. It is going to be hard later on in the fight, as he'll just, throw the specials quite willingly. And then with this path node, they just get indestructibles as they charge at you. So those are just a couple things to work out for. Otherwise, they're pretty darn simple, and he's just pretty tanky is really all it is. And I'm about to run. Oh, see, I just lost all my traumas, but that's okay. We're just going to stack those back up again, and the fight just proceeds as normal. And now we're going to move on to the next fight. Moving on to the fight with Tigra. This one, crazy enough, is actually one of the easier fights. As you notice, She-Hulk with her Deathless synergies is now immune to rupture debuffs. You don't have to worry about that in the slightest. She can hit your block even when she's got her primal sense up, and you're not going to get any of the ruptures on you. The only thing you do need to worry about is when she has, I think it's the blue sense up, you will still miss on your light attacks every so often. I think it's like the 50% chance. So what you want to do is keep her to the special 2 as best you can. I mean, really push just for whatever. You don't want her getting the senses if you can help it. Keep your trauma debuffs activated and keep Tigra to the special 2, and everything will flow just fine. As long as you're not against the wall, you know, she probably won't even hit it. It can be a little annoying to get her to throw it at first, just like that. So my trauma's dropped off, and then she finally throws it. So what I'm doing is I want those traumas to last a little longer, so I'm using my special 3s to get the debilitates going. Plus that puts her back against the wall. And then I'm trying to get her to throw these. And there she goes. And once you get to about 10 to 15 of those traumas, she's really likely to throw her special attacks. So here I'm trying to keep her from throwing the special 1 at this point and pushing her again to the special 2. The fear on your heavy attack will also keep her from going unblockable, which is really nice if you're not good at dexing that special 2, or if you happen to be up against the wall, which makes it a little bit harder. That's going to let you kind of bypass that completely. So again, She-Hulk is perfectly designed for this fight, and it's going to continue on just like that. This might not look perfect, but this actually turns out, and it was awesome. Absolutely loved getting the solo on Tigra here. And it pretty much proceeds like that. Keep up your trauma debuffs, use your heavy attack, maybe before she throws the special 2 to make sure she's not unblockable. That's kind of a bonus. And debilitates if you'd like those traumas to last a little bit longer. Otherwise, you just beat her down, and that's going to be that fight. Now, the Hercules fight is obviously one of those kind of more annoying fights along the path. It's really not too bad, so I'm using Deathless Guillotine here. The neutralize passive will kind of stop him from going indestructible when he dashes. It'll also stop all of his own buffs, you know, like his precisions and his cruelties upon his specials. So if you do happen to take a special attack to your block, it's not going to do a ton of damage, but they're really, really easy to dex. The hard part about the fight is managing the protection passives that he gets. You know, as he obviously moves through the phases of his health, he'll gain them more easily, and they'll become harder to remove. You remove those by knocking him down, intercepting him, specials, things like that. And later on, you just won't be able to do that twice in a row. Like, you can't use the same method of removal twice in a row. So you'll have to kind of manage that accordingly. But Deathless Guillotine actually kind of burns through this pretty darn well. The degens really do a lot of damage. If you'd like to keep off the buffs, you use the special 1 for the neutralize. And everything goes pretty darn well. And that's pretty much it for the Hercules fight. There's really not too much to it. It's just later on it gets a bit tougher because he himself gets a lot stronger as he accomplishes all of his feats and things like that. If you can solo this, the better. It just makes the fight that much easier if you think about it. But if you don't, that's fine. Just try to keep up with his protection passives and getting those off of him. In my opinion, it's best that as soon as he gets one, you find a way to remove it. You just don't want those stacking up 3 times and then just not being able to do any damage to him. It just makes the fight that much longer, that much harder, and more likely that you'll make a mistake somewhere. So try to remove those as quickly as you can to keep up your damage and moving him through the phases. But that's going to be it for that fight, and we'll move on to the next one. With the Captain America, the Captain Falcon, Captain America Sam Wilson, whatever you want to call him, with this fight, it really should be Deathless King Groot. But again, I was having the issue where his Undermine buff wasn't work, so I would still get auto-blocked on occasion during the special attacks, which is not fun. There was also an issue during this fight where I couldn't build ignition buffs. It might actually show it right here. So as the Malice activates, normally you would throw a special 1, which is going to armor break him, and then you'll gain ignition buffs. Okay, so it's working there. All right, that's good. At one point it wasn't working, and so the damage was just minuscule at that point. But the fight pretty much proceeds as you build up your ignition buffs up to 3, and then when the Malice reactivates, you're going to throw that big special 2 for a huge amount of damage, plus the Incinerate on him, and it just kind of cycles like that. You can, if you like, you can build ignitions through special 3. I kind of had to do that because it wasn't working. So there's the Undermine actually functioned properly, which is nice. Not always did that work. Keep that in mind. Maybe look out to see if they fix that or not. Otherwise, this fight is pretty darn chill, to be completely honest with you. Super easy, very soloable. No phases or anything, it all keeps the same. Keep him to a special 1. That special 2 really hurts through the block. And then as you get, if you do end up in the rooted phase, totally fine, because that special 1's really easy to dex. I'd just say he might become a little passive in throwing it. That's kind of the only nuisance of it. Otherwise, the fight's really simple. Do that with Deathless King group, and you'll be just fine. The Dragon Man fight is actually another pretty darn chill fight. Just bring in your Deathless She-Hulk, do the same thing she does, stack up your traumas. The only things to kind of watch out for is the power gain a little bit. It's nothing too crazy. You can, like during his special attacks, if you parry one of the attacks, it'll knock off the power gain, just so you guys know that. You know, you don't have to stun him outside of it, because sometimes he'll be stun immune based on how many crits he's taken and things like that. But Deathless She, what's really nice again is that the traumas act as taunt debuffs also, and so he throws those specials left and right. They're really not hard to dex. The special 2 maybe, but you can just kind of block the first part. But the special 1, pretty darn easy. He doesn't really do anything else significant here, other than, again, the lane node, which is just he is indestructible when he dashes. That's kind of why this path is nice. It keeps that pretty darn easy for you. Very easy solo with Deathless She-Hulk. As you build up the traumas, you'll see that you're just doing a significant amount of damage. Special 3s to get those debilitates if you need them. And otherwise, super chill fight with Deathless She-Hulk. For the Captain America Infinity War fight, really, again, nothing special. It's kind of crazy how somewhat boring the explanations can be here, because if you've already done the Necropolis, you've seen the fights at least, and they're just different because you're using a different champion. But again, Deathless She-Hulk are just carrying the entire run. Stack the traumas, keep him using the special 1s, which he throws really willingly, and then beat him down pretty much throughout the entirety of the fight. The one thing you'll notice as he cycles between his abilities, when he reaches the skill, he might purify some of the debuffs. The ones that are already on him aren't touched, but any new ones that appear might be. So I guess just consider that. It'll just slow down your ramp slightly, but as you start stacking them up, you'll be fine. Oh, and also the glancing. When he glances, you might not land some of your debuffs. So just starting out, things will be a little bit slower. But again, once you've stacked up enough of those traumas, he throws the specials like they're his bread and butter. And it's pretty darn easy, as you can see, just to counter those. Even when you're rooted, easy to dex. And then special 2s, special 3s if you want the debilitates, and so on and so forth. Real chill fight as well. Now for the Nova fight, you can use Deathless Guillotine as well if you'd like, because you can get that neutralize passive going. He's immune to, I think, nullifying things when he's not dashing. The neutralize, I believe, works, and that's just going to hold off on some of the buffs, but really not too big of a deal. Again, with Deathless She-Hulk, just getting him to throw those specials is so easy. The Energize really isn't that big of a deal, because it's almost like now every single 5-hit combo you're getting him to a special attack, in which case he's just going to throw it immediately. You can use the fear debuff to keep him from going unblockable at any point during the fight. So if you have to block the specials, you can. If you're comfortable with dexing them, great. Special 1's an easy dex. The special 2 dex is actually pretty simple as well. It's kind of just getting the timing of the first one down, and then they run pretty smooth, just like that. So, super, again, kind of crazy, guys. Chill fight with Deathless She-Hulk, getting us through this, and trying to think if there's anything else here, just so I'm not missing anything. But he might auto-block on his intercepts. But again, just getting to throw those specials, a little mess up there. Otherwise, gonna get you through just fine. And that'll finish it up for us. And we're gonna be moving on to the Grandmaster. Alright, you guys. So I'm not gonna break down the Grandmaster fight for you. I'm just kind of, giving you guys a congratulations for making it this far. If you've watched the whole video, I really appreciate it. If you'd like to, please take this time to like and subscribe. I know this is kind of at the end. I probably should have put this in the middle. But nonetheless, if you made it here, super grateful for that. I hope this was helpful to you. Like I said, I'm going to be putting out a couple more videos on different paths for this challenge, because it is possible. If you haven't 100% completed the Necropolis, it could be a good opportunity for you to get other paths done on your way to the 100% completion. Otherwise, guys, I really appreciate you. You know, if you're a part of the channel and you subscribe, it's awesome, and I appreciate it. It just lets me know that, you know, what I'm putting out is helpful to you. If you've got any questions on how any of these fights work, something I may not have mentioned, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it, and I really like responding to you guys. That's kind of my favorite part of doing all of this, is getting to interact with the player base. I know things are a bit heated right now with how the game's operating. I'm not too happy with it, but we can talk about all that stuff too. And hopefully, if you guys would like recommendations or give me recommendations on videos you'd like to see, I definitely like to include those things, because I just want to make sure I'm providing value to you and I guess getting you guys what you need to enjoy this game more. So I'm going to leave you guys with that, and best of luck in the Battle Realm, my friends.